Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Black Ops 4 In Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be finally starting the regular gun guides, and I'm going to be reviewing the MX9 submachine gun. We're mostly going to focus on multiplayer, but there will be some discussion about Blackout as well at the end. And without any further ado, any intro nonsense or any wait, let's jump straight into the stats. This has a lot of discrete damage numbers. It'll start off dealing 28 damage up close, very quickly decline to 24 damage, then 21, then 20, and finally 18 damage at super long ranges. There are quite a lot of intermediate damages here for the MX9 SMG, and it will take between 6 and 9 shots to kill depending on how far away the enemy is from you, and also depending on how far away they are. An armored user could take an additional 2 to 4 shots to kill, which I think would be very frustrating for many of you, but armor is very punishing for SMGs in this game because of how it works. Headshots will deal 1.1 extra damage and not really change your shots to kill very much. They're not worth going for. However, high caliber headshots will deal an insanely high extra 1.75 damage. So you get a 75% bonus to your damage if you get a headshot with high caliber, as well it should be, which means a high caliber headshot can deal 49 damage and almost cut your time to kill in half. It is a super effective attachment on this weapon, and it's one that I'm definitely going to end up recommending later. The MX9's base rate of fire is 739 rounds per minute, and if you put rapid fire on it, it goes up to a holy number of 777 rounds per minute. This is pretty standard for submachine guns in this game, or for Call of Duty in general. It's neither fast nor slow, but just kind of normal. I will say that with the relatively low damage and the normal rate of fire, the base time to kill is poor. And we talked about this on the last episode of In Depth, where we compared assault rifles and SMGs, and the MX9, like most of the SMGs, just underperforms compared to assault rifles. However, the base time to kill is exceptional if you get high caliber headshots. Those high caliber headshots can greatly reduce your time to kill and be wickedly effective on this weapon, and it's pretty much the only true way to use it in multiplayer. The maximum damage range is what you're looking at right here. That's about 15 meters, and about 15 meters is about shotgun range, and after that your damage is going to start declining very rapidly. Thought I'd give you a nice visual representation there. Recoil is, I'm going to describe it as average for submachine guns. It's good enough to use up close. I wouldn't call it a high recoil weapon by any measure. It's just good for the range that it's supposed to be in. However, if you challenge assault rifle users at long range, be prepared for your recoil to be somewhat more difficult to handle when you're trying to track a small target, especially one that may not have aim assist on it. The high fire rate, we'll say high fire rate compared to rifles anyway, makes it a good hip fire weapon too. The submachine guns in this weapon have a naturally tight hip fire box, and putting a laser sight or anything on that works pretty well. So you can definitely slide around corners and spray and hip fire hose and kind of surprise some assault rifle users if you want to with this weapon. Unfortunately, the aim down sight's time is kind of slow at 270 milliseconds. This is the slowest in the SMG class, but not by much. A lot of the other SMGs are only slightly faster than this, and it's odd because this is the aim down sight's time of most of the assault rifles in this game. So it kind of has like an assault rifle aim down sight's time, so your ADS reactions are going to be kind of rough, though since all of you have definitely watched the Gung Ho episode, you know that you can ADS and fire instantly through Gung Ho, so that's probably going to make this whole little section of stats irrelevant unless they patch it. The MX9 reloads pretty quickly at 1.35 seconds, with hybrids mags taking 0.96 seconds if you equip those. Hybrid mags will also give you an additional 10 rounds in the magazine, increasing it from a base of 35 to 45. Hybrid mags are a fantastic attachment for this weapon. They're one of the first ones that you unlock, and one of the attachments that you will be using until you work your way up to high caliber, then maybe not as much. But hybrid mags are great. I love them on just about every gun they're available here in Black Ops 4, and thankfully, speaking of attachments, the MX9 does allow for FMJ, so armor users can suck my... Well, you get the point. As we already did the episode on armor, you know that FMJ completely negates the effect of armor, and it breaks the armor in one shot, regardless of how much damage you do, and I run FMJ on the MX9 all the time. That's one of my favorite things about the weapon, other than the high caliber, is the fact that I just don't have to deal with people using armor, so that's very nice. And overall, when it comes time for me to rate this gun, for me to tell you how you should or shouldn't be using it, I have to tell you, the MX9 badly underperforms in time to kill. even though it handles very well. It doesn't handle exceptionally, not compared to a lot of the rifles, but it feels good for an SMG. It reloads pretty quick, it shoots pretty quick, it's not hard to use, but it just truly underperforms in time to kill, and rifle users and people using the Spitfire or the SOG 9mm are going to dominate you. So if you use the MX9 for either headshot challenges, or maybe just because you like it, because you're an MX9 fangirl, you need to definitely run FMJ so that armor doesn't cause you to need like 3 more shots to kill, and you need to choose to either run high caliber or rapid fire. Rapid fire is definitely going to be the easier attachment to go with because it just boosts your rate of fire and just makes your time to kill slightly better. I did notice that a lot of the close trades that I was losing, I started winning when I put rapid fire on. However, if you're a higher skill player and you're comfortable getting in close and going for headshots, high caliber is just downright filthy. High caliber is just ludicrous on this weapon, and if you've got the talent to use it, I think you should use it 100% of the time. Hybrid mags is nice too. I run hybrid mags when I can, but I also want to put optics on this weapon, and I want, so at this point you can say I want hybrid mags, I want FMJ, I want optics, I want high caliber, I want rapid fire, I want all this stuff. I end up loading my MX9 down with attachments such that I'm sacrificing a launcher or perks or other things, and it really does need to be loaded down with attachments to be useful, because right now it's not one of the viable SMGs in multiplayer. In the current multiplayer build of the game, I think there's really only 2 SMGs that are truly viable, and spoiler alert, it's not the MX9. But let's take a minute to talk about Blackout. Blackout is the secondary mode that about half of the player base is playing compared to multiplayer. Very popular, and weapons perform somewhat differently. Thankfully, the MX9 retains most of the same stats from multiplayer, and you can load it down with attachments that do about the same things if you find them all. But now the 9mm rounds are going to be very important. In regular multiplayer, you don't have that many super long-range engagements, so you won't be dealing with projectiles very much. It's mostly going to be hit scans. However, in Blackout, there are going to be a lot of long-range engagements where the 9mm rounds are going to start decreasing in damage faster than the other player. They're going to travel slower than anything else, even slower than the 45 caliber rounds, and they're going to literally fall and hit the ground faster than anything else. So the 9mm rounds end up being very punishing in Blackout. Also, you don't have FMJ, so you have to deal with armor for every single shot, which means it takes longer to kill the armor. The gameplay you're seeing right now, obviously, is me just kind of shrekking people with the MX9, so it's going to look more viable than it is. And the MX9 is viable in that, yeah, you can use it as a close quarters combat weapon in Blackout if you want to. It definitely can be used to push people and sometimes surprise them. And since I try to only use it close range, I prefer to run it with silencer instead of long barrel. Long barrel helps for the range, obviously, but silencer just gives me a little bit of extra time of confusion and doesn't draw a lot of attention. But a rifle would just be better in most situations. In most of the situations in Blackout, I could deal more damage, I could break armor faster, I could just do something better with a rifle versus the MX9, so I don't see a real reason to use the MX9 in either mode. If I were going to use the MX9, I think the headshot strategy is just the best way to go. Go for headshots with high caliber. Your time to kill will be ludicrously fast, but you can't miss shots. And if you're running it that way, you could go without FMJ as well, because, I mean, the armor doesn't cover the head, right? That's how I would use it. Guys, that is all for this in-depth episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. And I'm going to play about 30 seconds of extra footage to hit that 10-minute mark, make the YouTube algorithm happy, and keep those CPMs up. Drifter out.
Further collapse expected. Travel to indicated safe zone. Sit rep. Circle collapse imminent. Get to safety.